Okay, we are gonna use Kali today. And you can find your lab on lab 1, unit 1 lab, for week 1. You can click the document to download. I have it embed so you can view here. We are gonna use two things. We are gonna do encryption in Kali and we're gonna use hashing in Kali. I just want to show you some of the tools that you can use. Of course, the encryption tool that we're gonna use is gonna be different, right? But it has a good algorithm, and we'll talk about you know, the state machine and how when files are copied, it's still going to carry the state of that particular encryption. So you can download the document and I'll walk you through the step. If you have questions or need help, just raise your hand and I'll come over and help you. Okay? So periodically, I like using the virtual machine a lot because I think in this industry you have to know your virtual machines. We are going to use it to test or to be able to run analysis quite a bit. So, if you do this at home, you are going to have to install VirtualBox and you are going to need to install 7-zip to extract the Kali machine because it is a .7-zip file. I did do some investigation because I had a student ask me how do I install 7-zip on Mac OS as it doesn't have a UI app for it. There is an Unzip 0, I think, application that you can download for free on Apple App Store. But anyway, you need to install the hypervisor, which is VirtualBox, and you need to install 7-zip. But you don't need to do that here because they already did that for you. So if you click the link, it's going to take you to Kali download page for VirtualBox. Let's say that if you're using your laptop and if you have a virtual machine on there that you download last semester, just make sure that you push upgrade and update. Update most importantly. Otherwise, you're going to run into install issue. So you're going to click this little arrow key to download your VirtualBox file, your VM file. Okay? Once you do that, it's going to come down as a download and it's going to show the zip symbol. Okay? You should have a folder in your downloads after you downloaded it, and it is compress. Don't ever open it up and don't use the virtual machine when it's compressed. Because when file is compressed, the file header has been modified for compression so that way it can save space for download and storage, okay? But in order to put it back into the original so you can read it, you have to decompress it. So a lot of students initially, they try to open up the compressed folder and run it, and they're going to have a fatal error, and that's typical, right? So if you see a fatal error, you ask yourself, did I open the file from a compressed folder or a decompressed folder? Always decompress, always extract before you use your VM. Okay? If it's not already extracted, make sure you extract it. Okay, so once you download it, I wrote down the step, right? That's step 2. You're going to go to your downloads folder. That's step 3. And you're going to find the file. This is an older version. It's 25.4 now for the current one. So use the current one, but not the weekly. Because the weekly, they're still testing and you're gonna have some missing things. Okay, your regular, the top. So if you look at the web page, it's this one, the one on the top, not the lower one, this one. Okay. Because the weekly one, sometimes it's missing things. And you don't want the weekly one, this one. The whole, the complete one, the recommended. Okay. All right. So once you download, you're going to go to your downloads folder. This PC, click downloads, and find your zip folder or your compressed folder. You're going to right click, show more options, and 7-zip. I know that I did not document those steps, So right-click the folder, show more options. Let me move this up a little bit. So right-click, show more options, and 7-zip. It's because on Windows 10 and Windows 11, the steps got a little different than when you're using the earlier Windows 10 or the prior version. So we're going to go right-click the folder, show more options, and 7-zip. Like I said, if you do this at home, you need to install 7-zip. It's free. You can download and install, and then you're going to select extract files. Okay. No, you don't need to download 7-zip. You just right-click, show more option, choose the 7-zip from your menu, the app, and then extract files. Okay, you can click extract here or extract file. It's the same. Extract files allows it to open, decompress all the file. Extract here, it's gonna still decompress it, just place it in that current location. It's still gonna do either or, right? It's gonna, if you select files or here, it's still gonna extract. Okay, because I have students who are like, oh, I chose the other. That's fine. You can do the other. So I choose extract files. It's going to take a minute and it's going to place a folder without the zip icon, the decompress folder. This is where your VM exists. Okay? I'm going to open it up. I'm going to talk to you about it. So your computer is a state machine. It saves the state, right, to your more permanent storage, meaning that if I modify a file, it saves the modification, right? Your virtual machine is the same thing. Whatever that you change on it, it's going to modify it, right? It's going to put the the state or the modified information into the virtual machine. There's going to be two files. One, the blue, that's your virtual machine file, right? The blue is what you use to play the VM. The orange is the actual drive for that virtual machine. Think of it like a C drive, like a solid state drive, a drive that it uses to store data to. If you don't have both files, it's not going to work. Because some students are like, oh, I just need the blue file. No, you need both files, okay? So when you extract, you're going to see an orange file and a blue file. The blue file is the VirtualBox file, and that's what you need to use to play. So in the next step, it tells you to extract and then open up the folder that you have extracted, the non-zip folder, and find the blue file, and you're going to double click it. So I'm going to do that for you, right? So in here, downloads, I'm going to find my extracted folder. I'm going to double click it and you're going to see a subfolder that's automatic because they designed the virtual machine like that. We're going to double click the subfolder and I'm going to see the blue file. Now, for some of you, you might see like an older version like me. Don't use the older version. It's going to corrupt because it can't revert the state. So the newly extracted one is the one you want to play, right? You see the 219 on mine. Look at the date modified. So if it's trying to revert to December, whatever, on the school computer, a lot of the times it's going to corrupt because it can't revert the state. So we're going to go ahead and double click the blue file. And if you have that problem, call me over. I'll help you fix it. Okay? Because I've had student on Wednesday that they tell me, oh, I tried to open and it's corrupting every time. So double click the blue file that's newly extracted in the decompress folder. And your hypervisor is going to load the desktop. Kali will take a few seconds to a minute or so to boot. And it's going to take you to the desktop to log in. Okay. So this is available for you via the internet. You can just download and extract the virtual machine as long as you have VirtualBox. Yep. You don't need to for this one. You can if you want. Yeah, you can change the configuration, but you don't need to. We're just going to run it as it is. We're only going to encrypt, decrypt, and trying to guess the key. Your download is complete. Yeah, sometime it can go back to your downloads. No, go back to your downloads. Yeah, you gotta give it a little bit more time. It's just nice. Yeah, it's not like that in the next couple of minutes. But make sure you did remove it first. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so once you download, you need to extract. Once you extract, make sure that we open the extracted folder, right? Look at the icon on the folder. And to extract, you just right-click, show more options, and then choose 7-zip. Why? Because they compress using 7-zip. It shows that on the file, .7z. So you have to use 7-zip to extract. You cannot extract using Windows extraction tool. Okay? All right. Okay, if you got here, you're gonna type in your username as Kali, that's default. And the password is Kali, Cali. And then press enter. So after you double click the blue file, the extracted blue file, it should load the virtual machine into your playlist and launch it. Now, can you add and go through the app itself? You can, right? We will do that later when we modify the configuration, but we don't need to this time. Okay, so the desktop is gonna load. Then you're gonna log in, and then you're gonna see the complete desktop here. So while we wait, right? We are gonna work on confidentiality in part B. So what we want is we want to make sure that the data is protected and we can use encryption. So one of the tools that is available for Linux is ccrypt. Okay? Ccrypt is a way that we can implement Bridgedale Cipher to be able to protect our data. So your plain text becomes unreadable once it's encrypted, and only when you decrypt, then you can see the plain text again, right? So it talks about like the actual algorithm using ccrypt and advanced encryption standards. AES is very popular, right? It's in your smartphone, it's on wireless. We use this particular algorithm quite a bit, and it's recommended by NIST. So the ccrypt is generally strong, right? But nothing is 100%, of course, right? If you have time and resource, you can break anything, actually. Okay. Anybody need help with getting to the desktop? So once you're on your desktop, you are going to open up command line. Command line in Linux is your best friend. So open up your command line, which is the terminal. I'm going to change the view a little bit so the font looks bigger. Okay. You can copy and paste command if you don't want to type, but I encourage you to type so that way you know. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with making a folder. Inside a folder, we're going to open up the folder, so doing a change directory. Then we're going to make a file, append some text to it, and then we're going to encrypt it. Okay? So first, we're going to do an mkdir, and we're going to give it a name, secret. Hold on a second. I already made it on this VM, maybe. Yep. So for me, let me go and delete it. Because I did it for the Wednesday class. Or I'll just rename this one. Okay, now I can do it. Okay, so you cannot create something that already exists, right? Linux doesn't like that. It's going to tell you, no, it already has that. You have to make it unique. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to make a folder called secret. So we're going to do an mkdir secret. You just do a make directory and then the name that you want to give it. So in the step 10, that's what you're doing. You're making a folder called secret. And once you enter that command, press enter, and it's going to make that folder. Please get it downloaded. Are you using Windows construction? No, I'm saying when you extracting, just make sure you do 7. Looks like you are. And yeah. Right, click. Show more options. The bottom. Make sure you use 7-zip. Because it's a 7Z file. Yeah. Right click. Remove. Accurate. It's possible that when you double click it the first time, it was the other file. Okay, so once you have your machine up and running and logged in, you're gonna make a folder called secret, doing an mkdir command. Then once you have that, right, once it takes it, it basically won't tell you anything. Only if you see that it complains and something's wrong, right? If you get an error, then it's basically it's complaining. So press enter. So it's successful here. I did I create a directory or a folder called secret. Then in the next step, I'm gonna open it by using a cd command, which is a change directory. So we're gonna do a cd secret. So once you make a folder, once you made a folder, when you use it, it's gonna bold it for you in Kali terminal. So I'm gonna move into it. I'm gonna open it up by using a cd command. And you notice that the path is changed right here. So it adds that so that way you can see that you're inside that folder. So I did step 12. Now you're going to do a cat command. And if you took me for CS-27, you know that cat means concatenation. You need to cat it with an arrow. So if you don't have a file, then it just create a file for you using cat command. But if you have a file, when you use a cat command, basically it reads that file to you, right? Or it shows that file content. So we're gonna make a new file called mysecret.txt, which is a text file, by using a cat command, and we're gonna append the sentence, "This is my secret file," into that text file that we made. Okay, so you're gonna do a cat arrow, and it doesn't matter if you have space or no space here. And we're going to do a mysecret.txt, and it's inside the secret folder. So once that happened, your cursor just goes to the next line. This is where you're going to append your text. So just type, "This is my secret file," period. Now we want to end the process in appending the text into that text file. Then you are going to click on the terminal and press Control D, right? It tells you that right here. So once you append your text, then you're going to press Control D to return to your pop-up. So click on your terminal window and press Control D on your keyboard, Control and a D. You might have to do it a couple of times. And it's gonna show the pop-up again, right? Otherwise, you are gonna be in the content of the file and you want to get out of that. So when you do a cat, it allows you to add the string my secret file. This is my secret file into that file that you made, which is my secret.txt. Okay. And then you can move on to the next step in where we are going to encrypt the file.
Check the files.
Okay, so right click, remove only. Okay. Show me your folder. Download. Go back to your app. And
This is Slack.
to download.
This is forward Slack.
Open up the folder.
This is everybody said facsimile. It's a forward Slack.
Well, when you double click it, sometime maybe you double click it with that file or the file wasn't ready. Tells you the error, but yeah, you can work around it. Okay, everybody got to work. All right, so once we have the text file made, we are looking at step 16. So once you made that, you're gonna do an LSL, right? That's an L, not an I, not a 1. So we are gonna do LS-L. So L means list, and list in Linux just gives you the content of the current container that you're in. It's a little better, sorry. So LSL, press enter, and it's gonna list the folder content. So the folder you made secret now has one file, which is my secret.txt. This is what you screenshot. And to recall, right, we can use snip. We can use print screen. So if you use snip, you just open up snip app, click new, and then drag what you want to copy. And for my class, I'm okay with you pasting it directly into the document. The whole point in this is the screenshot is to help you remember, right? When you look back at the end or throughout the class, that what you did for that step, okay? So once you take a picture, you can paste it, and there you have, and you can adjust it. Okay? So there you go, right? Then next, what we're gonna do is we must run updates, okay? In order, before you install any software on Linux, you need to do a sudo apt get update. And it's gonna ask you for your password, just type KALI. Type, don't look at the cursor. If you type wrong, it'll tell you to retype. So Linux doesn't move the cursor to the character that you type. So if you type your password wrong, he will. It's okay with it. You know if you need help. Okay, so once you got your desktop, look at the step and follow the step. It tells you to open the terminal, and the terminal is the black box at the top. Okay, so we don't need too much of an update because it's a recent virtual machine that we download. So if you're using a dated virtual machine, you will have a longer update. So I did 17. Then I'm going to install ccrypt, which is my encryption tool. So before you install anything, it's always good to update, right? And of course you can copy paste. So how do I do that? I would copy the command from the document. I go to my terminal. Kali Linux allows you to do this, not other virtual machine, okay? I'm going to right click, paste selection, the third option. And it would paste the command for you, so you don't have to type. But you can type, right? And when you install ccrypt, it's going to take like less than a minute. It's going to give you the bill. And since I already have it installed, it shows I have the latest version. But yours, it's going to ask you if you want to install, and then you can go yes and install. So once we have the tool, you can encrypt the file. So the process is we made the file, we installed the tool, now we're going to use the tool to encrypt the file, right? So let me minimize this so I can be on the step with you on the document. Okay, so I'm here. Sorry, let me get rid of this so it's not confusing. Okay, so right now, I'm going to encrypt my file, right? So I'm at step 19. So once I install the tool, I'm going to do ccrypt and then my file name, my secret.txt. Remember that if it exists, it's going to bold it for you in Kali Linux terminal, right? So I already have the file created from the prior step, so I'm going to encrypt that file using ccrypt. And it's going to ask you to generate a key. So by practice, we want a long key, but for the lab, we're going to use secure01. Now, this is important how you type this. Just remember what you type for the key, because you will need to use it to decrypt. So if you use the same exact thing, you can copy and paste, which I will, and then repeat. So paste it here. And again, don't pay attention to the cursor. Just type or paste. Make sure it matched. Otherwise, they'll tell you to redo it. Okay, recreate the key and make sure there's a match for the confirmation. So once we have the key to encrypt, it should encrypt that file, right? Now, what we're going to do is we are going to look at the actual current directory by doing a pwd. And it tells me the path, the present working path of my directory is under its secret folder or directory inside the Kali, which is the profile directory, right? The user directory and the home. This is the default always, right, for your user account, and then the folder that we made. So pwd allows us to see your current working directory. And then you are going to do ls-l. And inside that folder, we have the file, right? I'm going to expand it so you can see. The difference between, see you. See you next week. Bye. The difference between before encryption and after encryption is that when you use ccrypt, it's going to add the extension cpt to show you that it is an encrypted file, right? Earlier, it's just a regular text file. Now it is an encrypted file with an added extension. Okay, so that's how you can tell that it is a different file or an encrypted file, right? It changes that file by adding that extension. So after you did the LSL for that step, basically you're looking at the file that you encrypted in the prior step, right? In step 19, you answer the question. So take a screenshot and answer the question. What is the file extension? Compare this to the earlier file. How is it different? Well, it added the extension of that file to CPT to show that it is encrypted. Then in the next step, what we're going to do is we are going to copy that file. Remember that the file you're copying is encrypted. So whatever that you copy, it's going to copy that state of the file, right? It is a state machine. So that means that even if you change the name, when you copy it, it's still going to be encrypted. Understand? Because once it's encrypted, it's going to be unreadable, no plain text. So it's going to carry that, it's going to inherit that characteristics. Okay? So it's going to copy the state of that file with it. Okay? So important that you think about that because some students, they get confused in this step here. So what we're going to do is we are going to copy the file and we're going to make it a different name. Okay? So let's say that I'm trying to read to a file and to bypass decryption, I want to attempt copying your file and see if I can read it, right? I want to show you that this is confidential when you're using encryption. No matter what, when you copy, rename the file, you cannot read it. You have confidentiality. That's my point. Okay? So next, what we're going to do is we are going to do a copy command, do a CP command. We're going to copy the encrypted file into a new file name. We're going to name it copy my secret.txt. So when you copy, you can copy it into a new name, right? That's what we're doing here. So in this step, we're going to copy the file and rename it something else. We're going to call it copy my secret. Then we're going to try to open it and see if we can read something in it. So we're going to do a cat copy my secret.txt. So if you don't put the arrow, it's going to just allow you to view the content of what's in that file. Can we see plain text or do we see symbol? That's okay? All right, just keep going. Take your time. Okay, so when you cat it, CAT, it's gonna be a bunch of symbol. Why? Because you encrypted it and you copied the encryption characteristic with it, right? Of course, we're not gonna be able to see it because it's an encrypted file you copy. That's why encryption has confidentiality. No matter if you rename it, copy it, duplicate it, if you don't decrypt it, you will never be able to read it. That's the goal, right? It's not, this is my secret file, right? It's just a bunch of symbol, and that's correct. So take a screenshot, tell me what you see. You can say that symbols, right? Is the content in plain text? No, it's not, right? How do you determine if the file is encrypted? Because it's not in plain text. And it has, well, if you look at the property, it does carry the characteristics of it. It was a copy of the encrypted file. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to decrypt it using this tool, ccrypt. And it asks you for the key that you created, which is secure01 if you follow the lab, right? So you're gonna go to the earlier step and just take it and put it into your key. Just type, right? Don't pay attention to the cursor. So once you put in the right key, nothing really shows on the terminal pop-up, but you need to see the state of the file. Did it change it back to a text file? Did it get rid of the .cpt? So I'm going to do an LSL again. And look, it put it back to original state, the state that we started with, right? It removed the CPT. So in Linux, this is typical. When you encrypt, it just add the extension of that application file type to it, right? Okay. So now, once we decrypt, can we read it? Yeah, of course. That's the idea, right? So now we're going to be able to cat it. So we're going to, but I don't have you cat your original file. I have you go back and read the copy, right? We did. So the copy, when we made that copy, it's after the encryption, right? So it only carried the encryption. Even when we decrypt the original file, it doesn't change the copy unless we make a copy after we decrypt, right? So it's about state, okay? When we encrypt, we made a copy, so it stays encrypted. We decrypt the original file, we did nothing to the copy, so it stay encrypted. Understand? Okay, so now we're going to try to read the copy again. You can up arrow key a few times, right? And of course, it's still the symbol because you copy when the file was encrypted. Even now, when we decrypt the file, we haven't made another copy, so it stays encrypted. But if you read the original file, it should now back in plain text. So the answer for 29 should be no, right? Because your copy file is still in its encrypted mode. Only your original is decrypted. Okay, so now we're going to try to read the original. So cat mysecret.txt. And because we decrypt the original, it shows your plain text. So yes, right, you can read it. Okay, so we're going to repeat the steps. We're going to do for number 30. Answer the question, right? Compare the content of mysecret.txt file to the copy file. Are they the same? They are different. One, the copy file is encrypted, so you see symbol, right? The mysecret.txt, it's decrypted, so you can see plain text. How can you determine if the file is decrypted? It doesn't carry the CPT, or you can see plain text in the content, right? The copy file, it doesn't have the file extension, but you cannot see the plain text. So that's how you can tell. And we're going to do the same thing for 31 for private.txt. So I'm going to make a text file called private.txt. So we're going to do a cat private.txt. And I'm going to say this is my private file. Then click in the terminal, press Control D. I'm going to do that twice. Same thing that you did for the other files, I'm going to repeat, but just have a different name. Okay. So that's part of step 32. I mean 31. Yeah, we're going to encrypt it. So cc encrypt private.txt. And then we're going to create a key. So secure 01 repeat. And then after you encrypt, just do ls-l. Oops. Space -l. So now I have encrypted private file. So make the file doing a cat arrow command. Append, this is my private file. Press Control D to get back into the pop-up. Do cc encrypt private.txt. Do an LSL. You can show the content. And that's it. Any question over here? We're good? Okay, then once you have your encrypted file, take a screenshot. I'm going to talk a little bit about 33 because a lot of the students get stuck right here. So once you have your encrypted file, I want to show you that there is a tool that you can use to guess your key. But when you are breaking keys or guessing your key, it's about resources. Brute force and cracking password is about resources. One is what kind of system you're working with. And two is how good is your tool. Okay? So when you use CC Encrypt, there's a tool called CC Guess. And CC Guess is a tool that we can use to find encryption key. Is it effective? Not always, right? So what we're going to do is we are going to guess the key for the encrypted file that we made. Okay, so you're going to run a CC Guess. Plus you. And this comes with CC Encrypt tool. So we're gonna try to guess the key for the private file that we encrypt. And if you don't know, you're gonna guesstimate like what kind of character that you want to start. So it's gonna enumerate based on that. So I'm gonna give it a clue. So I'm gonna say SEC to see if it's even close. I already gave it half, almost like a third of my key, right? Now, this process is going to be slow and painful because you're using a virtual machine that doesn't have much resources. So earlier there was a student that asked me, right? So it's okay if it doesn't guess it, okay? Now, if you want to test this at home, you can try it and see how long it takes. I actually got it to guess the key when I wrote the lab long ago, right? You're gonna have to up the RAM and the processor on your VM after you download before you start it. You can go to the configuration. Some of you have it before, so you know how to do this. And we'll talk about that later. So it's gonna go through, let it run for a few minutes, and it will tell you like so you can see some pattern that it uses to guess. Yes. Right? And it's gonna take a while. Okay? So what you're gonna do is you are going to see if how many.
One match.
Okay, that's good.
It says ES capitalized comma EEC, which is wrong.
Yeah. So it's totally off, right? Yeah. So the tool is not good. So my whole goal is like, some people tell me I can crack that key or password, right? There's a lot of factor that you have to consider. How good is your tool? Even on a good tool, sometimes you're gonna get inaccurate result, right? So in this industry, that's typical. You move 3 steps forward, you're gonna move 3 steps back sometimes. So if you find a match, you have one match, is it correct? You already know if it matches or not because you create that key, right? So now in encryption, a lot of the time the admin or the root user should be able to retrieve the key in the case that people forget the key. Okay, so if you don't have any kind of information on how many keys were tried, you can just put none. You can put a number for the pattern, right? It shows how many pattern that is generated. Okay. So my goal is to show you that there is an option to guess it, but it might not be a good, effective option. The file extension, the first one was the .txt. And now what does it say? Look at the file name.
What did you
Where's your file name?
instead of the file name?
Yeah. So when you encrypt it, added the additional yeah. Control T.
Yeah.
So if you want to pause or stop or end the
That's my sick.
Separate file, but I can set insert file next one.
oh you didn't create you have the my copy my secret data.
This one.
Copy my secret. Oh, you misspelled it. It's missing a C. Yeah, that's why it's not. Yeah, just up arrow key and modify it.
This is a feature from the.
So if you want to pause it or stop it, click on the terminal, press Control C, right? And just tell me how many pattern or screenshot it. That's fine. It does take a while. Okay. Sometimes it's correct, sometimes it's not, right? Okay, so if you see a match, you can say yes. If you don't, say no, right? But again, right? If you do this for money and then for a living, you're gonna have to wait. Okay, we're gonna use the ccrypt command. So let's say that I don't want to decrypt to look at the content of the file. This tool also allows you to take a peek into that file without decryption by using a ccrypt. So we are gonna peek into the encrypted file using a ccrypt. And as long as you have the key, right? And so type your key. So if you have your key, if you use C-encrypt, what you can do is you can use ccrypt to read it with the key. It doesn't need to be fully decrypted. So this tool is really designed to see the content of the file without decryption with the key. Okay, that's what ccrypt does. All right, so take a screenshot. We do see the plain text information, right, of the encrypted file. And then we are going to do an LSL. How do I know if the file is decrypted or encrypted? By looking at the file extension, like we said, right? So the file stay encrypted, but we can use ccrypt to look into it. And we know that it is encrypted because it has a .cpt following the original file extension. Any question regarding encryption with C-encrypt? I'm sorry. To answer 37?
Yeah.
So how can I determine if the file is encrypted or decrypted? If you look, the file extension tells us whether it's encrypted or decrypted. So for C-encrypt, if it has this .cpt at the end, that means it's encrypted, right? Now, when you use ccrypt doesn't decrypt the file to read. It basically allows you to look into the file content if you have the key. So you don't have to decrypt to see it as long as you have the key. Because traditionally we have to decrypt to convert everything back. So that means that the algorithm for this particular encryption, so the ccrypt allows you to reverse the algorithm, right? Without decryption, basically. So we can tell that it stays encrypted, but we're able to see the content in the file with the key. So how can you tell? You can just say that by looking at the file extension, if it has the .cpt added to the original file name and extension, then it is encrypted. Yeah, it still is encrypted because we didn't decrypt it. Oh, yeah. It's slow. Yeah, it has only dual processing. Okay, if we have no other questions on B, I will move to C. And we're almost done after C, right? So C, part C is about integrity. Some of you probably have seen this in another class. So integrity allows us to look at what has been modified, when it was modified, if by comparing hash. So to maintain integrity, we can compare hash to see if it has changed. So a hash is just a string or a value that is generated by an algorithm. So when every file, when it first got created, it has a value, right? Subsequently, if the file is modified or changed, it will have a different value. So if you create a file and if you modify it 100 times, it should have 101 values. Understand? Every time that you change, it generates another hash. So that means that that value has been changed 100 times from its original state if you change the file 100 times. So now I want to introduce to you some tool that you can use to compare or to generate hash. Okay, so first we're going to make a file just like what we did in the past. So you're going to do a cat for this step, for step 38. We're going to do a cat and we're going to do a test.txt. Cat arrow test.txt. And we can say this is a test file. And then press Control D. Click in it and press Control D. Just like what we did with the other two. So cat arrow test.txt and then append the phrase. This is a test file. So we did that for step 30A. Once we do that, we are going to generate a hash for it. So at this point, it should already have a hash value when we create that file, right? Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So when we make any file, and the OS is going to give it a hash, but we're going to make another hash. And we're going to force it to be an SHA-256, a SHA-256. Now, some system would use MD5, some system. So, you know how when you go download music or software and it tells you this is the hash value, and you can tell if there's malware injected to it by matching it, right? So if you download and if your hash ID is different than the one on the website, then you know that your download is bad. Okay? You guys know that, right? I hope you do. Okay. So they give you that value to match so that way you know that your file is good or bad that you download. Okay? So we're going to generate the hash right now using SHA-256. So there are good algorithm and bad algorithm for hash. You can type it. So once we made the file, we're going to generate a hash for it. And it's going to spit out a long string, right?
Does the SHA-256 some
Yeah.
inside the Linux, don't have to download that?
Yeah, it's already equipped with Linux and also Windows. Yeah, SHA-256 is now some is now equipped with most OSs. Okay. Okay, so once we generate the value, take the screenshot, and we're gonna copy that so that way we can go and check it. The reason why is that sometimes you get a hash and you don't know like what kind of hash that is, right? So you're gonna use a hash identifier or hash ID to know what kind of value that is. Because Some hash is long, some hash is short. Some algorithm is going to give you short or long, right? Depending on the algorithm. So if you get a hash, you don't know what that is, then you can use hash ID. So once you're going to highlight the hash that you generated in the previous step, copy, select copy. So copy selection. And then you're going to open up hash identifier. Again, this is equipped with Kali Linux. This is an app that you can also install on other Linux releases. And it's really good if you don't know what kind of hash it is, right? So as an analyst, sometimes that happens. Bye. Thank you. So once you have the UI open up, shouldn't say UI, the console, you're gonna paste selection. That's the hash ID that you got from the last tool, the SHA-256 sum, and you're gonna press enter. And it's gonna tell you that it is possibly a SHA-256, which is correct, right? It can also be other related algorithms. So it knows that the bit size for sure. And SHA, you know that SHA generates from other algorithm type. So you would see, okay? Almost done. So take a screenshot. And then we're going to open up the we're already in the folder, so you might not have to do step 43. And then what we're going to do is we're going to modify the file, and then we're going to see if the hash is the same. Okay? So with that, we're going to modify the test.txt. So get out of this. You can close the app, the hash identifier. You can come back to the terminal or open another one. That's up to you. We're going to have to open another one because I think we closed hash identifier. It closes the last session. So once you open another terminal window, just gotta make sure that you go into the secret folder. So cd secret. And in that folder, you are gonna modify the test file. So you are going to do a cat arrow key and test.txt. And we're going to type in this is modified. So it's just going to append this new sentence to the previous sentence in the test file. And then we're going to save it by pressing Control D. Click in it. So now, technically, we should have a different hash, right? Because we modified the original test file. So what we're going to do is we are going to generate a hash. So that's easy. You can just do SHA-256 sum, right? Test.txt again. Yeah, you see how it's a different value? Same exact file name, but because the state of the file is changed, it generates a different value. But you're like, wait, I want to see how many hashes it has, right? Because it's the same file. Because you want to compare. You don't want to, you already know that this is different. So we can compare the old value, which is what you saw in the last screenshot, to the new value, which is a different number. You see? Different characters and different numbers. Okay. So a good tool that you can use is called hashdeep. And hashdeep is used for comparison. Okay? So in the last few steps, you just need to call up hashdeep. And again, Kali Linux has hashdeep. If you don't have it, you can just install it. Just read the documentation on how to do that for your Linux version. So we're just going to call up hashdeep, one word, right? And then the file name. As long as you're in the location of that file. So it tells you, right? There's a number 18. That's the default file creation in the OS. Every comma is a separator, and then it has one that it creates, right? I have a SHA-256 the first time I made it, which is this one, the second one, and then the modified one, which is following. And you can see that it's longer, right? Typically, as your file grow, even though the string is like very minimal in size, it also changed because of the algorithm, the way it's designed. And it tells you the path. So it tells you there's 1, which is the original, 2, that's the first time we generated, and 3, that's the modified hash value, right? So a total of 3. And how can you determine if the file is changed? Because the hash values are different, right? There's multiple hash values and they are different. That's how you can tell. So for 50, you're going to have to answer on your own. Tell me what you've learned about CI in this lab, right? We've used Linux tools. You saw how we copy and it doesn't allow you to access the file with the copy encryption state. We learned how to check integrity of the file once it's changed, and how that would apply to your career. Make sure that when you leave, take your USB with you, right? And to shut down your Kali Linux, type shutdown now. Because if you don't, you're going to have to wait 60 seconds, and almost all Linux version does that, including Red Hat. Okay, let me stop the video and I'll walk around to give you help if you need to. If you're done, have a wonderful evening.